Welcome back to Nuggets of Gold podcast and YouTube channel. So it's going to be me and Aiden today. We're going to be talking a little bit about the 49ers Texans game, mostly talking about Trey Lance, talking about, him moving forward, just having a long Trey Lance discussion likely. And then after that, we're going to get into the 49ers playoff chances, the game against the Rams, the Saints game against the Falcons. So Aiden, I talked a little bit about it post game, but what were your thoughts on Trey Lance after Sunday's performance against the Houston Texans?
There was some good, some bad. Obviously, play calling in the first half wasn't perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but there were times where even I was like, "Okay, Kyle." But I thought that he definitely settled in. Second half was a lot better than the first half. I don't think he played as well as the stats show, and as some people are saying, he had a bad pick. The pick that he should have thrown at the end of the half, the one that went through the guy's hands, and IU caught it right at the end when we were still in field goal range. That was just dumb. Like there was like 7 seconds, and he tried to force like an out route, and should have been a pick, and we should have gotten no points. Should have been scoreless going into the half, but settled in during the second half, used his legs. I was impressed. You can tell that this offense has a higher ceiling with him in there. Um, but I definitely can see a lot more why Kyle wanted Jimmy to play earlier this year. I think before true like I feel like that Cardinals game was weird because you didn't know whether he was going to start for a lot of the week, and this week I guess was relatively similar. But this is the first week that I walked in and was like, Trey should play as well as Jimmy does, and I think that he played in a pretty similar manner, but they were good at different things. I think that Juszczyk had a really interesting quote about it. Like Jimmy gets the ball out, he knows where he's supposed to go with it. He just can't do stuff off schedule. Trey doesn't know where he's supposed to go yet, but if stuff is to break down, he can use his legs, he can extend plays, and he's just a better athlete. So definitely pros and cons, but I can see a lot more why Kyle wanted to push Jimmy for this year, but so excited for the future. I definitely saw flashes.
Yeah, there was early on, it looked like, oh, this is kind of rough. I personally felt like a lot of it was just the play calling and the rhythm of the play calls, and I didn't really like it. And I don't think I mean, I'm wearing a Kyle Shanahan shirt. Like, I don't really critique Kyle that much on that stuff, but I did feel like it was just a little funky. And then right before the half, they had the good drive. Then once again, kind of an odd decision. They don't kick the field goal with 7 seconds left, and then they lose to 5 yards and they get like 7 back. So they gain like 2 yards. Very, very risky. Somehow Ayuk made that catch. And obviously, it was a bad throw to throw it where the DB almost picked it off. But also, there's a reason he didn't pick it off because it's a 95-mile-an-hour fastball coming at him. There's a reason that the DB doesn't make that pick. Where I think you have to add that into Trey's skill set. You're going to see a lot of dropped interceptions from him just because of how hard he throws the football. Now, another thing you want to see is you want to see him be able to throw a ball that's more of a two ball than him just throwing a bullet pass at the sideline, because then that's not going to get picked off. That's not going to hit off the DB's hands. But then after that, I thought the 49ers started running the football a lot better. The inside game with Mitchell really started to take off. And then you had Trey Lance pick up a couple first downs on just like some scrambles and stuff. And the biggest thing to me from this game and then the Cardinals game was, one, you didn't see as many batted down passes. I think he had one batted down pass. No, two, I think it was. And then there was only one sack or two sacks on him. Like, the numbers were way down. And I think in that first game, you felt like, hey, Trey can't get the easy stuff done, which is something that's super normal with rookie quarterbacks. And I feel like a lot of people, just because he's raw and he's young and his delivery looks a little funky, they highlight those things, but then they don't realize oh yeah, all of those guys all of the rookie quarterbacks have done the same exact stuff. Like, they look at Zach Wilson, look at him lately. Have you seen the numbers, like the difference in his game? It's
So
gone
much
way.
better.
Yeah,
So
it's
much better.
crazy. So you see the improvement, I think. But for me, the biggest thing that I wanted to see was I wanted to see the completion percentage be over 60%, just to show hey, you can go in there, and if you're over 60%, it's like, okay, if you're taking deep shots and stuff, that's good. That's a good number to be at the very least. But 52% isn't. It's hard to run offense when you're completing 52% of your balls. Trey Lance comes out 16 to 23. That's 69%, and there was a drop. There was a dropped interception that was completion, so you could kind of, he had almost a 70% completion game, like a legit one. He had to throw to Mitchell. That was a touchdown. He's rolling out. JT O'Sullivan did a film breakdown on it, And he said that was one of the most impressive throws, not because it's like some super difficult throw that he's making, but because he's rolling out, he's on the run. It has to be like a nice mechanical throw. And that's something where you have young quarterbacks and they go and especially like with an offense like Kyle's where you're going around on the move and then you skip that one. And it's the layups. It's the layups that are really hard for a lot of these younger guys. And a guy like Trey Lance, whose mechanics are still a little iffy. And one of the things that was also talked about was he had a finger injury in that first game. Seems like the touch was a little bit more there, or at least he's improved it, one or the other, because he looked a lot sharper, I think, today or Sunday. George Kittle had the catch across the middle, of one-handed catch. If he doesn't get held, that's like it's a good ball, and that's a nice, like a right in the breadbasket. So I think that like that one might have not looked that nice, but I thought it was pretty good. Just to throw, kind of like put it over the DB like that. You saw the ball to Ayuk in the end zone where only Ayuk has a play on it. And he threw that. That was an insane throw. So I think you saw a couple throws where it was like the easy ones. You saw two slants. You saw a slant across the middle of Debo. You saw one to Ayuk wherever it was like three guys around him. Those are the passes that Jimmy makes right there. Is Trey going to do that as consistently? No. But the signs that you can see, he can operate the offense that way as well. And then at the end of the game, you go and you look at the pass chart and you look at Jimmy's like season pass chart and you go, wow, this is completely spread out. You have one in the upper right. You have a go route they're running go routes. They have the play to Debo, which that's what some people are critiquing that ball. He put it in the perfect spot. He dropped it underneath the safety where Debo can come back and go get it. That was an amazing throw. I guess it wasn't a pretty spiral. I don't think like any quarterback, like Tom Brady will tell you like, yeah, I don't really care if it's a pretty spiral. I throw with no laces. It doesn't really matter. So I don't really know why people are like trying to be like, oh yeah. Like, no, he threw the ball there. I got there in about 2 seconds. He absolutely laced the ball 50 yards down the field for a huge touchdown. That was a dot. That's something you're going to see with Trey Lance that you don't see with Jimmy. So overall, I thought it was huge signs of what's to come with the offense, what's to come with Trey Lance under center. And yeah, there's some rough patches, some bad decision making, but that's all young quarterbacks. And when that's your second career game, like that's a really, really good second career game.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think my biggest takeaway was that Trey Lance has a cannon. Like we've heard about it, we've seen it in practice, but the low one to Jennings at the end of the half, that was on a rope, that was low. And he had one deep one that I think somebody dropped that was on just an absolute rope, and it was almost like, why did you throw it that hard? But I think once these these guys get used to it, that's only like a good thing. And as he starts to figure it out, just lets you do things that like normal offenses cannot call. You see what the Chiefs do, you see what the Bills do. And Trey Lance is a pocket guy. Like, I think that Josh Allen almost is less of a pocket guy than Lance will be at his peak, because I think Lance wants to sit in there and make throws rather than just look to run right away. That's the main critique with guys like Lamar, who tuck and run and they get large gains. But I think Lance is a guy who wants to sit back and make throws, and that's something that we saw. If he plays against the Rams, obviously that's up in the air. Jimmy could be back. Lance is probably going to play. I'd say it's 70-30. Um, he might not play that well. Rams have a good defense. They're like probably going to win the division. Assuming the Niners don't beat them and then the Cardinals win, they're in a similar spot to us and the Saints. But like the Niners are Rams are a good playoff defense. That'll be a real test. And I'm excited to see if Jalen Ramsey says something after the game, because he had some harsh words for Jimmy Garoppolo after Jimmy played the Jaguars a few years ago. So you know that he's always going to speak his mind. Excited to see what he has to say about the young quarterback.
Yeah, that'll be an exciting thing to see. I don't know. Did you see the picture that the 49ers posted of Debo and Jalen? It's like the
I
hardest picture ever.
I
It's basically
was
them
it
like face to face from Monday night.
was it as hard as the Nick Saban photo with the Alabama people, and he's sitting there like this? Oh, I'm gonna have to show you. I'll show you off camera.
All right, we'll have to check that one out. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think Trey, you see a lot of stuff, and you brought up the pocket stuff. That was my favorite like attribute of his coming out. Sorry about the sirens. Um, but my favorite attribute of him coming out was he likes to play in the pocket. He has a great feel for what's around him. We see a lot of young quarterbacks are super uncomfortable. and you see ghosts. Like I was watching some of the guys this year coming out, and dude, some of them have absolutely no feel for what's going on in the pocket. They look completely lost. That's been one of my biggest critiques of Jimmy because he's been in the league for so long, and it also often feels like it's feeling ghosts, not seeing them, but like you feel the ghost, and you see Jimmy like spin and kind of panic. When Trey's in the pocket, he does not panic, and it's not like he's just sitting there casually, and then an edge rusher comes off and completely blows him up. No, he's sitting there, and then he goes, "Oh, there's an edge guy stepping up," and he slides up in the pocket. He dips underneath it. The guy misses. He steps up. He runs. If he can get out of the pocket, and he's like scrambling, he's still looking to throw the ball. He has great pocket play. I I think that's going to be one of the biggest things that people kind of realize, especially once the motion gets sped up, the decision making gets sped up, because he's a very young raw player. So when you do that, when you have that natural feel to sit in the pocket and you get those mechanics down, he's going to look so good. And especially in an offense where we already see like he feels comfortable moving, and then we see him move, set up, and he throws the deep ball. Like you see a lot of that stuff where he's on the move and it's really natural. Like, oh, let me just rip this ball like 40 yards down the field. When he's able to do that, but he's also able to sit in the pocket and go, oh, there's no linebackers. Like the linebackers are blitzing, or this guy's, like dropping into a different zone. This spot's going to be open right here. And he sits back and he hits Debo on a slant, or he hits Ayuk on a slant. We saw him do that a couple times. When he can do that more routine and he can go, no one's open, check down to the running back real quick, where the running backs, Mitchell, whoever it is, Sermon in the future probably, like those guys are able to go and make those second level plays, use check, and you're able to hit that touch pass on the sideline. Like there's going to be a lot of things that develop, but his natural feel for the game is really impressive, I think. And so for me, we saw that, I think we saw that the best, I think, in the Cardinals game, even though he got sacked a lot, because it was insane how much pressure there was in that game. That was the worst game the O-line played, I thought. And he was able to step up. There was a couple plays where JJ Watt comes flying up and he just dips underneath and gets away. But we saw that again on Sunday. So that's going to be, and that's something, if he's starting against the Rams, like you're going to need to see that, because you got Donald coming, you got Vaughn coming. Like, it's going to be really, really scary for a guy like that. This is a huge step up. Except the Cardinals defense was really good when he was playing it back then. So I guess that could be comparable. But then you also have a pretty high-powered offense with the Rams. So going to be interesting what goes on there. Kind of talking about the Rams, Aiden, how are you feeling? You think the Niners are still going to own the Rams on not Sunday night? I thought it was going to get flexed on Sunday night, but the Raiders-Chargers game's there. But what do you think about this game that could be a do or die, make the playoffs or don't type of game for the 49ers?
So Niners are 3-point underdogs, I think. I think that's pretty fair. We've had the Rams number. We've won 5 straight. Um, I think 5 straight with Jimmy, and then maybe there's one more in there at the end of last year or something like that. But yeah, it was definitely last year where we beat them just doing touch passes. That was such a satisfying win last year. But I'm not really sure how to feel about it. Niners are gonna need to run the ball. In teams around this time of the year start to figure out how they're gonna stop the run going into the playoffs. And this Rams team is a playoff team. It's not like they're a fringe team. They're probably the betting favorite to win the division, given that they're supposed to beat the Niners and then thus clinch the division. But this is a good team. This is a team who is the top 3 team in the entire NFC, I would say. I think they're a bigger threat to represent the NFC than the Cardinals are, regardless of whether they win the division or not. Obviously, going against Aaron Donald is going to be tough, but I really don't know. It's so many question marks. Hopefully, the Saints just lose and we don't even have to worry about it. But I think it's a game the Niners can win. They've showed that they can beat this team. They thumped them earlier this year. Um, I think I think Trey and Jimmy give us pretty similar chances to win. Trey's a bit of a question mark in that I think we don't know what to expect game plan wise of the Niners if he's starting. If Jimmy's playing, you know what you're gonna get, and you know you've had success against the Rams doing those things. But Trey might give him a bit of a wild card, and the Rams don't know what to expect. Um, so just so many question marks, but really can't ask for a whole lot more. In week 5, I don't think anybody really expected us to be in this position. Basically in a playoff game right here, where you win, you're in. You get to be the 6th seed and you have a playoff game. So I think I would take this spot going into the season 10 times out of 10. Um, like the Ravens, who were preseason playoff locks, are probably going to miss. So super excited to see the Niners get this far, and hopefully they pull out a win on Sunday, and we don't even have to worry about the Saints. But it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, this is definitely a tough matchup. I mean, we have seen the Niners have won, what, 5 straight, I think it is. I mean, that's really impressive, especially against a team. And yes, they had Jared Goff a quarterback, but they were always still a good team, really top tier defense. They're probably this is probably one of the healthier times, I think, for the Rams season, or at least the more like high powered times. But you look at this game, you go, okay, the 49ers are going to really need to run the football, and they're going to need to generate turnovers. Now, luckily for them, Matthew Stafford has been a complete turnover machine over the last couple months. Hopefully that continues. We've seen that. I think it was who was it? One of the old former quarterback that's on, I think, either NFL Network or ESPN. He was talking about how he thinks DeMeco Ryans disguises coverage better than like a lot of the guys, and he's already a top 10 defensive coordinator, which is crazy because early on this year we liked DeMeco a lot coming into the year, but early on, like, you'd be like, okay, dude, like, what are you doing? Like, it's third down, it's obvious, man, and teams are just beating you. And then we saw it. Like, I feel like I don't know when it flipped exactly, but you started seeing the corners play a lot better, and you started seeing the secondary overall performance get a lot better. Now, a lot of that was that Jimmy Ward was out for a little bit. You had guys in and out of the lineup, but Ambry Thomas has come on big. Now he might not be playing. That's an issue, but the secondary has to play well. The big question right now is that there's a ton of guys in COVID protocol. Who's going to be there for the secondary? We don't really know that right now. So that's a big concern. Defensive line, this is a matchup where they should dominate in, and I think that we're going to see one of the best games from them this week. Matthew Stafford's he's hurt. He's not as mobile as he typically is. Not like he's a dual threat quarterback really, but he can move a good amount in the pocket. He has a back injury. He's not. I don't really think he's been feeling it been that healthy lately. But this is one where defensive line needs to go out there and eat, and you need to make Matthew Stafford make a couple bad decisions. And then on offense, if you can run the football in the Rams, if you can play that downhill style of offense, that guess what? That's when the 49ers win. When they lose, they don't play that style. When they win, they play that style. And obviously the other team can dictate how well they perform, of course. But when you see them start to play downhill, last week that's what we saw. First half, they're throwing the ball, they're kind of spread out. It feels like they're not really just pounding the rock and then playing off of that. Second half, they come out, they just run the ball down the Texans' throat and boots, setups behind the line of scrimmage. They run a lot of stuff where it just got a lot better once they started playing that downhill style. So you can 100% do that against the Rams. That's what the Niners have done. You talked about the touch passes and stuff, just stuff getting the ball out quick, getting it to your weapons. You get the ball in Debo's hand in a game like this, in George Kittle's hands in a game like this. The Rams linebackers are not one of their strengths. You let those guys go win you the game. And I think that's what you kind of got to tell Trey this week, especially if he's the one starting. Hey, you got 2 all-pro caliber players here. Get them the rock. They'll do the rest for you on offense. Like, you get it to them, you're going to be fine. So I think that's how I'm feeling with it. And then defensively, we haven't really seen, not that Nick Bosa hasn't shown up or anything. We haven't seen him have those like monster games the last couple of weeks, and he's had a few of them this year. He's been amazing this year. He needs to end the regular season with an exclamation point this Sunday. So I think that's another huge factor. Arden Key, Aiden, we hyped up Arden Key in the offseason, and dude, he is a monster. I think he's the second best. Got to be the second best pass rusher on the team, right?
Probably pure just from a pass rushing standpoint, yeah.
Yeah, we've also seen Eric Armstead have a couple great bull rushes. He's been good in the run game. DJ Jones has been fantastic this year. You see Arden Key and DJ Jones, a lot of people are really like going hard to re-sign them. I mean, they're earning it. They're playing tremendous football lately. So I'm pumped. I'm really excited for this game. For you, what are the biggest matchups on offensive side and the defensive side?
Comes down to running the ball. I think you hit it right on the head. I think if the Niners can consistently pick up first downs running the ball, I think Mitchell needs to have a good game. I think he probably needs to have 100 yards rushing, or the Niners as a team need to hit 150. But I think we're due for a giant Kittle game. It's been a couple weeks. It's been almost a month. He had like no catches until that one hander one last week. I think Kyle realizes like this is my best player. And in a do or die game, I think they're going to see. I think Kittle is due to have 8 for 150 and a touchdown. Um, and I think he's really the X factor because when he's catching passes, I know that he says that he likes to block. It it changes the entire dynamic of the 49er offense because the linebackers don't know whether he's climbing to them or if he's running a pass, and gets very confusing for them and Kittle, and people feed off of whenever Kittle gets a catch. So I think he's the key. I think Kyle will take advantage. I think he's almost been saving him for a game like this. He really hasn't had that many targets, let alone big games, since uh, he had that one huge game in the one before the Bengals, I think. And so he's due, and I'm just super excited to see what Kyle cooks up. And I mean, I think it'll be both teams score 20. I think it'll be a competitive game. First team to 25, I think, wins.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty good. 25, I think that'll probably do it. I could see like a 30-27, something like that. But I do think this should be a pretty solid game. And the thing just with how the Niners are built is for this one, it is so important to get ahead because if you have to put the Rams in a spot where their offensive line has to go out there and win, if they have to be the X factor, that's a spot where defensively that's where you're really happy for the Niners. And then on offense, I really like that you bring up Kittle having a monster game. I mean, you look at the middle of this Rams defense. Linebackers are Christian Roseboom, Troy Reeder, uh, safeties Jordan Fuller, Taylor Rapp. I mean, we saw Taylor Rapp get in the fight with Jalen. I'll tell you right now, Jalen's probably right on that one. We've seen Jalen getting mad at a few teammates and stuff before. There's usually a reason. It's usually because that guy screwed up or did something wrong. So, or he's just frustrated with his performance, really. But I think that's where you're gonna have to carve up this team. That's Kittle territory. That's Debo territory. If you can get Debo Kittle to the second level in the middle of the field, that's going to be huge. So we talked about how Lance has to make those easy throws, those good throws across the middle, and he has to not replicate Jimmy, but Jimmy. I think that's Jimmy's greatest skill set is being able to carve up the middle of the field like that. If Trey can somewhat do that, and then you also get the added explosiveness, the 49ers offense should do really well. Another big thing, don't throw any picks, Jalen Ramsey. We've seen that he baits a lot of these younger quarterbacks in the league. Defensively, or I mean, for in the pocket wise, you might feel Von Miller screaming off the edge a couple times. You might see Aaron Donald completely destroy your interior offensive line, even though Brunskill has owned him for some reason. I think we always bring that up every time, but it's really funny that that's always brought up every single week, every single time the Niners play the Rams. But it's something where when that happens, throw the incompletion, throw it away, don't take the sack, try to do what you have to do to limit the negativity from that play because those are going to happen and you just have to live with them. You can't have every play be an insane play. So a lot of those times you want to see him just kind of get the ball and throw it away, go to the check down, stuff like that. I think that'll go a long way in this matchup. But yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at with this game. We talked about the matchup, talked a little bit about the playoff picture. So how are you feeling? How do you feel about this Niners game? We brought up all the matchups. How do you feel about this Niners Rams game? And how do you feel about this Saints Falcons game?
Uh, I think the Vegas lines have Saints winning, Rams winning, which means I think Vegas expects the Saints to make the playoffs as that 7 seed, Niners to get booted from 6 all the way out because of the dumb tiebreakers. Of course, I'm not going to pick the Niners to lose, but the Saints are a better team than the Falcons, but their offense has been anemic since Taysom Hill came back from that injury. I think the Falcons could definitely win. I'm not sure what the line on that game is, but Falcons fans hate the Saints. They do not like each other. They are division rivals. You mentioned before the podcast it could very well be Matt Ryan's last game. You know Falcons players are going to want him to go out with a win. So obviously Falcons taking care of business helps the Niners out a ton. Don't have to win against the Rams, but I don't think that that's Kyle's message at all. I think Kyle's message is let's beat the Rams. Like we've done it. We don't want to focus on anybody else. Um, and it would be a little bit bittersweet for the Niners to lose to the Rams and then still get in. So I think that they will beat the Rams. I think it'll be close. But I mean, of course, I don't think um, the probability is in our favor, but I'm excited to be in this position going into Sunday.
Yeah, and this is one too that like this is huge for Trey Lance just as a young quarterback. If he goes and he wins back-to-back games to get his team to the playoffs, like that's a big deal. That's a big deal just for a young quarterback like that. Now you can look at it and go, okay, it's like 2 games. It's not like whatever. But it's 2 games where he's super raw and he's still able to squeak out the wins and win in a big moment. I think that shows. I think that shows a lot just to his teammates too, which I think is sometimes underrated. Sometimes it's a little bit overrated. When you talk about like, oh, you got to go get this guy because he won a ring, and he's like a role player. It's like, all right, guys, all right. But for a quarterback, I think that's a big deal. I think that's a big message of like, hey, this guy, this guy put the team on his back. He went out there. It's still very raw and still able to get it done. I think that sends a message. Looking at the Falcons Saints game, now my thought was that last week the Niners were going to win, the Saints were going to win. We're going to win, yeah. This week, thought the Niners are going to win and the Saints are going to lose. I think that both of the things that you need one or the other to happen, I think they're both going to happen this week. And I know that the Falcons are favored, or I'm sorry, the Saints are favored, I think, by 4.5, something like that. But you look at the last time they met up, the Falcons won. Now, Trevor Siemian was starting. I would argue, I don't know how much of a drop off Siemian to oh my god, Taysom, how Taysom is. Now, Taysom it's definitely better because Siemian had a couple games where he played awful and he threw a bunch of picks. I think he had 4 picks in the Bills game or one of the games. It was really bad. However, this offense, like you said, has been super stagnant. They're not putting up points. You look at some of their recent games, it's pretty ugly. They scored 18 points against the Panthers. They scored 3 points against the Dolphins. Okay, you can call that one a wash. Ian Book started. 9 points against the Bucks. They scored 30 against the Saints, but hey, against the Jets, sorry. And then they scored 17 against the Cowboys and 6 against the Bills. So you start going back, you go, they're not really putting up points. If you put up 20 points and you don't just hand them the ball like right in front of the end zone and they don't capitalize in one of those moments or a couple of those moments, the Falcons offense doesn't need to put up that many points. And the Falcons offense still has a couple weapons. They've had Cordell Patterson, Mike Davis. Those guys have been not healthy for a lot of the season. Cordell's been great this year. Mike Davis, when he's been healthy, he put up a couple really good games. I don't think he's like an amazing back or anything, but Patterson has put up a great year. If you look at the recent weeks, Kyle Pitts has come a lot more to the offense. Another guy, Russell Gage, he was not playing for a lot of the year in that first matchup. I highly doubt he was there because he missed like almost more than half the season. But when he's been healthy, he's been great. He had a big catch against the Niners for a touchdown. But you start looking at this matchup, and I don't think it's one where the Saints should be favored. I'm kind of surprised that they are. I guess they're playing for more. There's a lot more on the line for them, but I really think that it's going to be a surprise game where the Falcons are going to come up, and it's going to be, Falcons won by a touchdown. Falcons won by 10 points, 24-14. I think that's super reasonable. And really what it's going to boil down to is because the Saints offense, no matter who they're playing, they're not going to go out there and just destroy this team. Their offensive line is beat up, and they have Taysom Hill at quarterback, and they basically have one like elite weapon in Alvin Kamara. Now, Traquan Smith, he's back. He wasn't there early on in the year. I don't really know if I count as him like a great weapon. Marquez Callaway's put up a pretty solid season, so you gotta bring him up, but nothing that's scaring you from a defensive side if you're the Falcons. And the Falcons' defense is not very good, but if their offense can score over 20 points, they should win. And I really think that. So I think we're going to see somewhere it's kind of interesting where, okay, like the Niners have to win, and if they don't, then the Saints have to lose. I think they're both going to end up happening. It's going to kind of work its way out. But 49ers game, I'll say I think it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be a back and forth game. I think it's going to look different than the recent 49ers Rams games. I'm going to say 30-27. Niners have a big offensive day. Trey might have an early play where it's like, oh no, like rookie quarterback, that was a bad pick. I think he's going to bounce back. I think he's going to have a big game. I think you're going to be able to see the Niners. Really what the Niners are going to do is they're going to get it to their playmakers. And if they do that, they should win offensively. Defensively, you have Matthew Stafford throw a couple picks, fumble a ball. You get it in deep in Rams territory. You capitalize. You get a couple touchdowns. You should be able to take care of business in this one. So I'm going to say both things happen. Niners make the playoffs. And like you said, it would be really bittersweet if they lose and then end up making the playoffs. So this way, both things happen, so we're not like freaking out like with like 5 minutes left in each of the games. But that's what I'm feeling right now. So anything else you want to add, Aiden?
Let's not have Cooper Cup break the. I don't think he's in pace for catches record, but it's really the yards one. Let's not have him break the yard. He's like 150 away. Let's not have that happen against the Niners in week 18 to send us home. Um, I will say there is a trend. The he hasn't played well. Like his two off games this year are against Arizona and Seattle. He hasn't played well in both division games against the same opponent. Like he went off against Arizona once and went off against Seattle once, but in the other two times that he played those teams, didn't do that well. So hopefully that trend continues because he still had like 11 catches and 120 yards, even though they scored 12 or 10 points earlier this season. So hopefully we keep him in check, doesn't break any records. Niners win, and we march into, fingers crossed. I'd love to go to Dallas. Love to march into Dallas, coming off a win, 2-game win streak, and send the Cowgirls home. Would be a great way to keep the season going.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good spot. We were talking about it, and it's hard because like the Cowboys have looked really good at times, but then they've looked awful in other games. Like sometimes it feels like they're unbeatable. Now, usually they're not playing like a top end opponent, but when they look really good, it looks like, oh yeah, like the Niners would get smoked by this team. But then you see the Bucks, and you see like when Brady's on or Brady in the playoffs, you're like, I don't know if I want that. Now the one thing that could happen is they could end up playing. They could play the Rams if they lose the game and the Rams win, right?
Yeah, but then the
And
Saints
the
would
Saints
need to
have to lose.
lose. Yeah.
So if the
So
Saints lose,
Rams win the division and not, yeah.
Okay. So that is, I mean, there's definitely a possibility that that happens. So we'll just have to see who the Niners end up playing, and we'll talk about that when it happens. But I think it's going to do it for today's episode. Hopefully, you guys like the longer podcast kind of versions. If you're just listening to segments, I think we split up into 3 segments for this one. But hopefully, the Niners win this weekend, make the playoffs. It'd be big. If they don't win, hopefully the Saints lose. So that's kind of where you're at right now. Sucks. I think you said that you like being in the spot. I think the Niners' expectations were a little bit higher, so I don't know if I'd say that much. But a lot better to be in this spot than to not have a chance to win a game to make the playoffs. So, and also like way to put your future your franchise quarterback now in a spot to go, hey, go win a game in your third career game right here. Like go make the playoffs. That's a pretty big moment. So it would be pretty sweet if that ended up happening. And maybe it's something where you look back and you go, wow, like that really helped take Trey to another level at the end of the year, winning those 2 games, making the playoffs, having a playoff run with him. So I want to see it. I think now with Trey starting, to me, it's even like I want them to win like so much more. Obviously, I'm always going to root for the Niners, of course. However, like with Trey starting, it's like, oh, like teams don't have film on him. Like take advantage of that. Now, Niners are a little uncomfortable with him at times. It feels like with the play calling, but imagine the defenses. They've watched Jimmy Garoppolo in this offense. They've watched Nick Mullins. They haven't seen anyone like this in San Francisco. So looks a lot different for other teams as well. Don't have a lot of tape on him, and you might be able to take advantage of that and have a playoff run. So hopefully they get it done, make the playoffs. But with all that said, I think we're going to take off. So thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you guys very soon.